me to turn my volume down on the phone, you said?
Yeah, all the way down if you can.
What's up, everybody? Sean here with another live Live to Roll video. This week we are going to be doing a little bit different. We're going to be interviewing my friend Tommy Hollenstein, who is world famous, just an incredibly talented artist. And besides being a talented artist, he's been a quad for over 30 years and has done a lot of great things. Does a lot of stuff with adaptive rec, develops some water ski stuff, does just a lot of awesome stuff. Was one of the first people that I also met in the hospital, visited with me. So you guys already know me. I'm Sean. I'm a C5, C6 quad. My normal weekly co-host here, Tom Conway, is here. You want to
Hey,
introduce
everybody.
yourself, Tom?
Good to see you guys again. Thanks for joining.
And then we have another quad here, Tommy, which Tommy's just kind of getting settled. He's got some stuff going on at his house right now. AC being worked on and smoker being set up in the back and a bunch of things going on. So he's got a
So
lot of
must
activity.
protect from the
Yeah, so,
possible outside contamination, right? Got to wear the
yeah, so
mask.
he's got to rock his mask because he's got people at his house, workers and stuff. So, yeah. Tommy, you want to introduce yourself? Tom?
Yeah, like you said, I'm Tommy Hollenstein. I have been injured. My onset date was March 10th, 1985. So I've been 35 years, a little over 35 now.
All right.
And how did it happen, Tommy? If you don't mind
Yeah,
me
I
asking.
had a mountain bike accident. It was just kind of a freak accident. Sunday afternoon, beautiful sunny afternoon. I took a trip to the beach that day. Went on a mountain bike ride in the morning. Took a trip to the beach. Came back out. Was going on another mountain bike ride with a friend of mine, and we were taking a shortcut to go through what they call Bell Canyon over there by Castle Peak. And there was a dirt lot to build a home, a slope, a dirt lot to build another home, another slope. And so I went down two slopes across three lots. When I approached the third slope, it was no longer a slope. It was dug down 5.5 feet straight down, about 4 feet out and 2 feet up to put a retaining wall. So it just caught me by surprise. As soon as I got that, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be a bad one. And I just knew it was going to be a bad accident. When I hit my head, it sounded like a metal rod hitting the ground. And immediately I died. I mean, I was up in the clouds looking down at my body. I was going farther and farther. I could see my body laying in the ditch, see the bicycle wheels spinning. And I thought, oh my God, I'm dead. It's my time to go. And I said, God, please don't take me now. Give me another chance. As soon as I said that little prayer, I came right back into my body. I was laying face down, motionless, couldn't tell where my legs were. Saw my wrist laying limp, but it didn't feel any pain. I thought, oh shit, I'm still alive, but I'm going to still die because I knew I was paralyzed. And I know a lot of times your lungs fill with fluid. And I said, whatever happens from here, I can, I can handle. I just said one more quick prayer. And a buddy of mine was 20 yards behind me. He approached me. I told him, don't move me. Call the paramedics and call my parents' house. My mom showed up before the paramedics. At least I was able to tell them what I could feel, what I couldn't. Anyway, they flew me to Northridge Hospital. Spent the next 19 days in intensive care, 6 months in rehabilitation hospital, another 6 months in outpatient, and then another probably 2 years doing a lot of physical therapy at a gym called Physically Challenged that was opened up by a quadriplegic named David Crawley, who's no longer with us. But it was the first gym for handicapped people, and especially for quads, which was right down on Ventura and Topanga, right down the street from my house. And I also was part of Dr. Britton's program over at Cal State Northridge.
awesome. That's cool. I didn't
How
know
long
you were
was your
even.
initial rehab? Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was a total of 6 months. I spent
Yeah.
6 months in the hospital. I spent 19 days in intensive care. I remember I was doing about 13 therapies a day. I mean, a lot of physical therapy, a lot of occupational therapy, rec therapy. That's where they were. I worked a little bit with some clay and stuff like that. I remember doing a whole nativity set for my mom from start to finish while I was there.
Nice.
And then, I was learning how to play pool there with some adaptive things. But I mean, for months, I could only shrug my shoulders. And I've got pictures, where my arms were in overhead slings for a long time. So, I mean, I'm a C4-5. And so, I mean, they were really, the doctor used to tell me, hey, if you ever get out of bed, you're going to drive a wheelchair with your chin. They also want to put me on a trach immediately when I first got to the hospital, which I did refuse, and I also refused medication because I had to be sober at the time. I didn't want to be screwing up my sobriety. I didn't want to, be hallucinating if something was coming back that really wasn't coming back. And then, my left lung collapsed. I caught pneumonia. A lot of complications.
Wow.
That first 19.
That's crazy. I was in rehab initially for 6 months as well. It was like ICU for like the first like 2 weeks, and then I had a lot of like side complications as well. Like I broke my mandible in half, and I had like a bunch of broken bones. So they were just kind of trying to piece me back together and handle the spinal trauma. But they also put a trach in me. I wasn't in a conscious state to refuse, and my parents, were like, just trust the doctors, do what they do. Thankfully, I didn't become dependent on it. I was on it for something like 3 months initially, before they were like, let's get this guy breathing on his own and see if he can. But
how old were you?
I was 4, and I'm C5, C6. I'm like a little lower than you. But yeah, it's right in that area. But yeah, thankfully you're able to get off that trach. Yeah, the ventilator is not an easy thing to deal with for anybody.
Yeah, you were a fighter at 4 years old, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't fight. A lot of people listen to them.
Crap.
Yeah, I was fortunate to have a lot of people good people on my team too.
Gosh.
That's what it's all about, a good support system. But so Tommy, I got a question for you. Were you? I don't really know this. Were you an artist? Were you doing, your art thing? Was that your career before you were injured?
No.
It was not my career, but it was my passion since I was a kid. And I tried to get my parents to send me to art school, but there was just no way. Back then, everybody, art's basically a hobby. My father happened to be in the restaurant business, so when I got out of school, I first went to Pierce College, a local community college, and I was taking architecture because I loved drawing. I did a lot of graphic design stuff in high school and stuff. And mind you, in '79, there's no computers, nothing like that. So by hand, So I was, I went to Pierce for a year, and then I found a school called Orange Coast College. One, I used to love to surf, so I thought, man, this is Orange Coast, it's Newport Beach area. I could go down there. It's a junior college that had a 2-year restaurant management and business program. So I moved down there, did that 2-year AA program, surfed every morning, and then I got really into art stuff as far as garde manger. I was doing a lot of food art, doing food carvings with all kinds of, I remember I did a competition. It was called the Craft Culinary Challenge. I won first place up in San Francisco. Carved a Noah's Ark out of a 50-pound banana squash. Out of yam things, I carved all the different animals, different kinds of animals and stuff. So I got into it that way.
Very cool.
Awesome,
so what was the transition like following your injury, getting back into it? How long did you wait, work on your recovery, work on kind of bouncing back towards normal life before you decided to dive into the art? Okay.
I'm going to be honest right away. They were trying to teach me how to do paint with a mouth stick in rec therapy. And it just wasn't fluid for me. Ironically, I had known about Johnny Erickson, who was, he was famous for her ministry work and art, mouth stick art. A friend of mine had one of her eagles. It was an ink painting. So, I was familiar with it, but it just wasn't fluid. It wasn't that fluid for me. While in the rehab, they took me to my first expo at LA Convention Center. I was still in a halo. Couldn't even sit up straight. I was tilted way back, looking out my eyes. That's where I first got introduced to canine companions. And I also met Johnny Erickson for the first time. So, I really didn't do anything too much. Other than the ceramics, artistically, I didn't do anything for quite a few years until, I don't remember how many years later, when Apple computers finally came out. I took graphic design down at Santa Monica College. They had a disabled student department down there. They had a great Apple lab, and I had moved down there by this point. I had moved to West LA. I was over right on the borderline off of Venice Boulevard in Overland. And I was doing the graphic designs, and then I started doing a lot of art stuff there on the computer for my dad's restaurant. All the menus, all the graphics, all the invites,
What year was
stuff
that?
like that.
You know what year that was,
I
Tommy?
don't remember. It's got to be
That'd be early '90s, right?
92
Yeah.
or 92, 93, I'm thinking.
That's like right when the first like
I believe
Apple
it's
Yeah,
around that
that's
time.
why I was
computers
wondering that.
were
Yeah,
coming
because
out. Yeah.
It's kind of a blur, you know.
yeah, no, that's really cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I
But,
just was like, that's just really cool. The early
I mean,
Apple.
you know, like, you know, you asked how quick I got involved. My first year out, I mean, there was 13 people in the hospital with me with spinal cord injuries. There was a kid, 16 years old. His friends thought it'd be funny to loosen the front tire on his bike. Front tire falls off, he becomes a quad. One of my roommates
Jesus.
he got in a car with a drunk driver, graduation school night, high school graduation night. They hit a palm tree over on Sherman Way in Reseda. He became a quad. There was another girl who, her and her girlfriend were driving down to go back to Pepperdine, and the girl fell asleep at the wheel, and the passenger ended up breaking her neck. I knew those girls from Pepperdine. I went to Pepperdine after I went to Orange Coast College. The one girl was one of my buddy's girlfriends. She ended up walking out of there. She got her legs back before her arms. So she got, it was like an internal, I forget what they call it, a central cord injury.
Yeah, that's always interesting.
Those are a trip.
So, yeah. So, I mean, but then immediately, you know, like I said, I came home and I got exposed to physically challenged. That was the gym. Met a guy named, well, first off, first guy I met in the hospital ever, who was not in the hospital. He'd already been injured 7 years, was a guy named Christopher Volker. And he's a very, very famous photographer. He's since passed away. But he was just going to photography school, had a dark room at his parents' house. He ends up moving out, builds his big, beautiful home, big, beautiful studio. You know, so I had him kind of like as not just a friend, but not even knowing it, but he was like a mentor, you know. So, I mean, I'm thinking this guy could do a lot of stuff. And then the very following year, I got out of the hospital in August or September. The following August, I was down in San Diego every Thursday taking water ski lessons. It was really geared for paraplegics. A couple of girls I went to elementary school with were running the adaptive ski program down there. So that's where I first water ski, and that was on a wood plank. The ski cage, the rope was attached to the nose of the ski. There's no headrest on it. I remember I first started to pull out, and literally back in those days, a guy would lay on his belly and stay on the whole ride for you. He's on his belly. They got a little Boston Whaler boat behind you with the jumper in there. But I remember I lost my balance right away and went like this. I'm looking straight up in the air for the first ride, laying on my back, man. Went around that way. And then they pulled a quick release, and I fell upside down. I thought I was going to drown. They said, "Hey, I thought you could swim." I said, "I thought I could too." So once they found out I really swim. But the program was really geared for paraplegics, but they snuck me in.
Yeah.
So, you know, then immediately after that, I bought myself a ski. I had some friends with ski boats, and I immediately modified that ski. I put a Volvo headrest on it. A friend of mine, Steve Fawcett, with the Volvo headrest on it. And we used to have somebody stay on jumper skis and hold me, stand behind me the whole time, and hold the back of the headrest. And that's how we would ski. Take me in and outside the wake. Then one day the guy fell off, and I remained standing or sitting, you know, and kept my balance. I looked back, oh shit! I just said, keep going, let's roll this out till I would fall. And we had, we used to the same boat that was pulling me was the boat that was responsible for saving my life. Whipped that boat around quick, and I broke my neck in '85. February 1988, I bought my own ski boat, and then that's when I really got into skiing. You know, I was going every Thursday, sometimes almost every Sunday, sometimes we were camping every weekend. But I had a group of good friends.
Yeah, I know you were like kind of the innovator for the quad adaptive ski.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You know, they
ringing in.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, so for those who are not familiar, and we talk about adaptive recreation here all the time, aquatic recreation for quadriplegics especially can be a little daunting and pretty scary to go hop out into the water, like big, open, deep water, and, get on a jet ski, get on a water ski, or, whatever it may be, kayak or whatever it is. Down here in SoCal, like we're incredibly lucky to have access to USARC, which is the United States Adaptive Recreation Program, and a couple other
USARC.
local programs that do a lot of adaptive water recreation. But Tommy's been kind of leading the way for like quad water skiing for the last like 30 or so years.
Yeah, Tommy's definitely
Kinda,
been the innovator for that. And I actually just recently got to try the Hollenstein, like the Tommy ski last summer at the Land Meet Sea Camp. For some reason, every year before that I went, they told me that one of your skis wouldn't fit me. And so the difference, I'll explain a little bit, and Tommy can go into more detail, but the main difference is Tommy developed his ski, like he's modified even more now over the years to where it doesn't, your toe line doesn't hook up to the front of the ski, like on the board. It hooks up by your knees, up on the rack. Like he kind of built it just up a little bit better. And then also he added little handles on the side to give a little bit of, more control for steering for a quad. And I can't even tell you how much, like I was able to ski on the other quad ski, with it mounted in the front, but I would catch edges. Like it was definitely a lot harder trying your ski, the one that Tommy developed and worked on. Like, it's incredible. I was actually able to get out of the wake, so much control, so much fun. Like, I'm actually really, really bummed that this year, because of COVID, we can't go. I was looking forward to that like all year.
yeah, it's funny because I missed out on the water skiing last year too, and I was so bummed on the last day. And I was like, "Dang, I should have done that." And then this year, yeah, things are a little different, kind of canceled. But I'm really hoping that later in the year, things start normalizing a little bit. They'll host some additional events, get out on the lake, go skiing or something. So to jump away from the adaptive recreation a little bit, if you're ready to go, Tommy, you mentioned you don't use the mouth stick to paint. That's what they started you with, right? I mean, I'm familiar with Chuck Close, who's like another quad who does like photorealistic, painting with his mouth and stuff. And
he does. You guys froze up.
Did we?
So I'm curious, how do you do it? Like, what's your style?
My style is completely different. I'm familiar with Chuck Close as well. He's amazing. I mean, one of the top artists in the world. But so how I paint, it was really by fluke. I mean, I had a service dog that I got 2 years after my injury. As he started to get older, I kept thinking, I used to play around in puddles with my chair outside, with puddles, and you just go through puddle water.
Heck yeah, me too.
Make all kinds of designs underground, you know what I mean? And they dry up. But I kept thinking, you know what? One day I'm going to pour a bunch of puddles around a big board, a 4 foot by 4 foot board, and have the dog walk through the puddles, and I'm going to roll through the puddles. We're going to go across that board together, so it would represent and remember all the good times. Because, I mean, I've been to Final Four basketball games. I've been to World Cup, the soccer World Cup finals, the 6 games that were held at the Rose Bowl, the final game. I've been to all kinds of really amazing sporting events. World Series, Angels World Series, Game 7, Dodgers twice, 2 or 3 times, World Series. So I kept, also my dog had a stroke one day, but he rebounded from the stroke. His name was Weaver. And I better hurry up and get this thing done. And I used to sell wheelchair accessible vans full time for adaptive driving systems. That was one of my jobs, after I worked for Research Medical. And if it wasn't for Research Medical, there would be no Land Meet Sea Sports Camp. We started awesome. Land Meet Sea Sports Camp through Research Medical. So the first 2 years, we ran that. We ran the whole program. 35 people the first year, 70 the second year. And then when friend Andy got a job at Costa Colina, he took it to Costa Colina because they're a nonprofit hospital. So that's how the whole camp got started. So there was no Research Medical, no Bobby, who was a quadriplegic, that owned the very first quadriplegic-owned business. If anybody out there, I mean, thank God for Bob, otherwise there'd be none of us having jobs, I can promise you. But he opened the door for that. But anyway, so back to we were moving from one warehouse to the next. I said, hey, Chuck, do you mind if I set up a studio? So my nieces came with me. We painted 2 4 foot by 4 foot boards. We did it in the lunchroom. And I wasn't thinking, what's going to happen when I want to get out of here and clean my tires off? Or how am I going to clean the tires off? So shit, we had to go through the whole, from the lunchroom out to the work area. Thank God it was empty. The bays were empty and everything. But I would lay cardboard down, roll 4 feet, throw another piece of cardboard down, roll 4 feet, take, and back and forth till we got out to the alley, and then hose that damn thing down in the alley.
Yeah.
And so I did 2 paintings that way. But I had a good time. And that's when I realized, hey, you know what? This isn't so bad. I can actually use the tires of my chair to paint with.
Yeah.
So I would set the studio at Chuck's shop at nighttime, and take it down, set it up, take it down, set it up, take it down. But then a little over 20 years ago when I got a house, that was the first thing I was doing. And I was working full time. I was real blessed. Because I was working actually for a it would only help you get more customers for us with the vans because you get more exposure. So it was great. So I set up a studio at my house here, and then once it was set up, it was didn't have to be torn down every night, so it wasn't a big ordeal. I could come home and paint and once I got about 32 paintings I had, I started shopping around for a show. I didn't know it was unorthodox. You'd show up at the gallery and try to show your paintings. People would kick me out half the time, and I out all the way down to Santa Monica, starting Beverly Hills, Culver City, downtown LA, and it was a very high-end gallery, Calabasas, that was owned by this guy, Mr. Rosenberg, and it was run by his wife. And they were art collectors from all over the world, and they started that gallery basically to house all their own art, and have something for his wife to do. So the manager there, Judy, she said, "Yeah, I like your art." She walked it back. I was walking back with a calendar, penciled me in, and I don't know, this was 2007, I believe. So 2005. I did my first art show. It was right when that movie Walk the Line came out. And Joaquin Phoenix, starring in that movie, he'd show up my art show. He's wearing T-shirts, jeans, untied tennis shoes, and he walked out of there with 2 paintings. And the least expensive painting that night was $1,600. So I was blessed. Went out for the fences and just really trusted God that, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. I sold 9 paintings that night. Bobby Rohan got one of my favorite paintings called Passion that him and his wife hung in their bedroom. Awesome. And, I just got a lot of support that night, and which was great, So that got me to thinking, okay, wait a minute. And then my parents kind of looked at it, wait a minute. There's over $20,000 worth of art just sold. I guess art's not quite a hobby, So then, I continued working and doing that, but then I finally went to the art full time. One of the businesses I was working for ended up having to go bankrupt, and AMED got sold to Byron, and it kind of forced me to go full time, which was a blessing in disguise. But art, just like anything else, has got ups and downs. Right now we're during COVID, so it's a little bit slow, but it's all right. It'll all work.
Yeah. I love the guerrilla style, just going after it, showing up at galleries, bringing stuff.
That's amazing.
I think that is so cool,
Great.
Like, it reminds me of, like, those guys, like, bringing their, like, EPs and stuff to the record studios. Like, yo, listen to my stuff. Let's go. Here we are. Like,
you knew you had talent. You knew you had some good art. So that's awesome, man. I had no idea that's actually how you got in there initially. Like, got set up and started. It's incredible.
That picture ended up in a newspaper, and I used that newspaper article. I went back to a couple of galleries. They were saying no, and I said, look, Joaquin just bought a couple of my paintings, Then they took a second look.
That's funny, dude. That's so cool. Have you talked to him since that at all, or have you thanked him or anything? Or
we remained pretty good friends for quite a while. Then he got sent away to do some work, and I bump into him once in a while. A very good friend of mine, Michael Mueller, is very, very good friends. And Michael is one of the most amazing photographers you'll ever meet. Him and another guy, Brian Bowen Smith, who's another photographer and owns a gallery out in Malibu. And just incredible photographers. But Michael, he's crazy. He jumps in the water, and he's got some of the most incredible shark photos that he takes without going into a cage.
Oh.
I'm amazed. Yeah, really good guy.
Yeah, he must have some cojones to be able to do that.
Yeah, man. So that was actually. Go ahead, Tom.
Sean.
I was just gonna say one of the other things I was gonna ask you about today You know, starting with Joaquin Phoenix, you do have quite a few like celebrity friends because you know you got pictures, a lot of different supporters and stuff. I see you with Slash in your studio, and you know lots of cool and you know you seem like you're like really good friends with a lot of them. So how did that come about? Did you just kind of like just
You know,
happen
Slash
upon
showed up
them?
at one of my shows years and years ago. Bought a couple of paint, and I hand delivered to his house. And his boys were just young kids, and I remember I did a wheelie in my wheelchair. And next thing I know, you know, he called me later on the night. He says, "Hey, ever since you left here, London, he's been doing wheelies on his little bicycle. He had a little BMW bicycle. And Slash was a hell of a BMX bicycler back in the day. He probably still is. But I think he finally had to sign a contract not to get on a bike because, you know, he breaks his hands or arms. Just, you know,
there goes his career. Right?
And there goes his career. But so once I did it there, and it just started kind of catching on. I got blessed, and Ringo showed up at a few of my art shows, and you know we've become very very good friends, very good friends.
I'm gonna click that little video for a second.
And you know that's a
That's
incredible thing
wrong
about
video.
art, right? You know, like even if you know, graphic designer, you know, whatever your medium is, you know, creative people kind of tend to attract other creative people, right? You know, artists, you know, we all tend to vibe in a unique way. So it makes a lot of sense.
Hang on once. I need to put a charging wire on my iPad. It just looked like
no problem. I'm actually playing some of your pictures. I got a little slideshow I made for people. So I'm just showing some of the pictures, some of your art. Like some of this art that's showing right now was your really, and there's you and Ringo, the little artist you did, you and Steven Tyler on that one. Steve Adler. Yeah. And then there's Slash in the studio. But yeah, definitely lots of cool. And then yeah, you in the studio and a few things. Oh, what is?
So Tommy, this show is kind of all about, you know, advice and information for other quads and other paras. You know, whether they've been living this life for a longer time like we have, or whether they're new to it. One thing that was a big part of my rehab all throughout my life, because my parents are just kind of artsy, creative people, was arts and crafts, like painting and doodling and, you know, molding and clay and things like that. And it got started in rehab. I just like wanted to talk to you a little bit about your experience with like assisting your rehabilitation. You know, like was that instrumental in like, you know, helping like attain, you know, like a higher level of recovery, do you think? Kind of pushing the bounds of what you thought you could do. I just wanted you to talk about that for a minute.
As far as art was concerned?
Yeah, like art in particular.
Art in particular? Yeah, I think so. You know, I mean, it's just art and just, you know, having a drive. I mean, yeah, the art definitely, you know, because, and being kind of competitive. You know, I grew up competitive. I played Pop Warner football. I played basketball. I played soccer and stuff like that. But, you know, where I really strived, I mean, I was kind of skinny, so I was too small for football. Didn't do real well there. But I loved skateboarding, and I loved building my own BMX bicycles. So, you know, I used to repaint my bike every year. I used to, maybe every couple of months, I'd strip that thing down to bare metal, get creative. I mean, do fades on it with different just spray cans, and I'd upholstery my own seats. I mean, I remember one time I had a Budweiser bicycle. My grandfather and my parents, we all went on to a tour of the Budweiser. I'm not old enough to drink. I'm a kid. You know, I'm like 10, 12 years old. But I don't know. The Budweiser, they were selling Budweiser material there to make curtains out of it. So I bought a small piece of that, covered my seat in Budweiser, had my grandfather drink a Budweiser beer, cut the front of that. So I took the Schwinn emblem off the front then, epoxied that to the front, painted the bike red and white, and I had a Budweiser bicycle. And I had one of my friends' moms sew the crossbar. You know, we used to make our own crossbars. There was no crossbar bicycles then. I mean, we were gorillas down back then, you know. So we would cut a sissy bar in parts, grind the ends down, put it on a pair of kids' handlebars, take it down to the lightest muffler, pay them, I don't know, 50 cents or $1 or something. And they'd weld that, and we'd have our crossbars. So I had a padding on that made from Budweiser, stuff like that. So I got real creative there, but I got real competitive there too. And then once I got into surfing in 8th grade, I love surfing, so I would just hitchhike to the beach when I got old enough, 15, 16, before I had my license. Camp at the beach every weekend, just really strive at that. And I think being that competitive spirit really helped me survive the rehab situation. Because I'd be looking at other guys in rehab, and say, okay, I've got to excel more than them. I'm a C4 or 5. I got to go a little bit faster down the hallway. I was in a manual chair for 2 years. I had no business doing. I had quad pegs that were, I could push, but if I approached any type of ramp, I had no mobility to get up it. Now, I'm getting, you need your exercise. I was at the gym every day, so I was working out every day. The place felt physically challenged, and thank God for that. I met another guy named Steve Ferguson. He was a young guy, and he was driving by this point. By the time he got injured at 12, I think he was, I don't know, a couple of years younger than me. He was driving a van, always had the prettiest girl. He ended up getting a ski boat. And that's why I ended up getting a ski boat. We do trips to Havasu, but it was that competitive spirit that really got me through rehab. And and the other thing was I did have great insurance. So when it came to cushions, there was foam cushion, there was a Rojo. I had a Rojo waiting on my bedside before I even had a wheelchair. I was able to get a manual chair and a power chair. I didn't get in that power chair. There's only one manufacturer for power chairs back then, and that was Everston Jennings. It was a belt drive chair. It was loud, it was big, it was noisy. It just awkward. So
a belt drive.
I know, that's crazy. Belt drive.
And then once the minivans came out in 1987, I had a Ford rear entry van that my parents had gotten for me. And that's the other thing. I had great family support. By the time I got home after 6 months, they had converted the garage for me. I had my own entrance. I had a rolling shower. I had 24-hour nursing care because I had good insurance that covered that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a burden to my parents, which was my biggest thing. That's 24. That's the last thing I want to do is be a burden to them. Have either one of them have to stay home from work. My mom and dad both worked at my dad's restaurant. My mom managed all the banquets. My dad ran the restaurant. And so that was my biggest thing, that they could go back to work and have a good life. And I could, be independent. So thank God for the good insurance, family support, back then I had a lot of support from a lot of friends. Like I said, the 2 girls that were twins that I knew from elementary school. Sorry for the noise in the background. That's them putting air conditioning in my bedroom.
That's okay.
I got central air, but it's still not good enough. You guys know I push it to limits. I'm sure you guys do too. I know my limit's about an hour in the shade. But I'll be out an hour and a half. I was out there having lunch with my dad today, in the backyard, push it to limit. But so I'm putting a little mini split in the bedroom so I can just sit on that thing and soak up the cold air, and come wintertime, soak up the hot heat.
Heck yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, we've been having a bit of a heat wave down here in SoCal. So our squads have been hiding indoors as much as possible.
It's like 102, 104, it said the other day.
It was 114
this weekend was over 100 all
the other day.
It was 90 degrees in the park the other night when I took my dog for a walk. I said, Alexa, what's the temperature? 92? 92. It's 8 o'clock at night.
At 8 o'clock? That's crazy.
8 o'clock at night. And I was already overheated. I just probably came back to bar, so I could go outside. And, I'll get to a point where my nose is dripping because I overheated myself. My chest is hard to breathe. I'm having a hard time breathing. I'm tired.
That's what happens to me with the heat. I start to not feel like I can breathe. I feel like, especially if there's humidity in the air, oh my gosh, I feel like I cannot get a breath. Like I'm just like,
yeah.
But it's just like that heat.
That's where, over the years, 25, I've seen so many changes in equipment, in chairs, in computers. Thank God for an iPhone. When I first got injured, there was a dial-up telephone. There wasn't even call waiting. So, and that was the most frustrating thing. I'd be in my bedroom watching TV. The phone would ring. I had these stupid quad pegs. I'd turn my chair around, get the phone, and nobody's there. And I didn't have. There was no
answering machines yet.
Caller ID. Or
call.
there was no Star 69. So thank God for Star 69 when it finally came out and all that stuff. I had more phone numbers memorized in my head than you could imagine because I had no choice, you know. I meet a girl in the mall. I want to get her phone number. I can say, can you write your number down for me? I got to remember that thing so I don't look like a fool. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so funny. You know, I think I hardly ever think about it. I think a lot of people hardly ever think about it, like how lucky. I mean, this sounds going to say like nobody's lucky to be paralyzed, become a quadriplegic, but the time in which we did become injured, I think we're very fortunate to have access to, you know, like different level of technology and tools that did not exist 30 years ago. You know,
right?
A lot of the struggles you had to figure out back 30 years ago, you know, newer quads won't have to quite deal with. And I like a lot of stuff I didn't even have to deal with, you know, like.
When I first got injured, there was only full-size vans. The minivans hadn't even come out yet. When the minivan finally did come out, I got myself a minivan, and that's why I went from, you know, I got a minivan I was going to drive, but I couldn't get up that ramp, and I didn't want to be in this big-ass E&J chair, so there was a company called Damaco, which is like a portable motor that went on top of the. There was a bar that went across the back of the chair with two rollers that would roll on top of your wheels. And you had two batteries that hung underneath the chair. They were out of Chatsworth. The company right out of Chatsworth. Great little system. So that was my first powered chair. So I could get up the ramp. I tried to drive. I was 3 days into it. Hit a parked car. Totaled the car. Now my driving days were over. I thought, if that was a little kid running across the road, I don't want to be responsible for killing some kid. So, you know, I mean, trust me. I mean, when I sold vans, I sold a lot of high-level quad systems. Back in the day, they're a lot better now. The EMCs and all that different stuff. But I mean, back then, I mean, I had like a push-pull air system, zero effort steering, and when you start to make a left-hand turn with zero effort, I lost my balance and my arm was situated. It had a metal bracket with a top on it that slid over top to give my pure gas. Like I gunned the car, so I gave that car full gas. Made a left-hand turn like you couldn't believe, hit a parked car. I watched all the windows drop out in front of me, pushed it up over the curb. Some junker car. I remember getting out of the car with my friend. I wrote a note, police call me, sorry I hit your car. I mean, this thing was a POS, right? Guy calls me out, screaming at me, I can't believe I hit you at my fucking car, and dude, I got insurance, ease up. Yeah, but I still can't believe you hit my car. I said, look, dude, I can't believe I left my fucking number. Hung up on
Right.
That's awesome, Tommy.
Good stories, man. That's great.
Yeah, that is. So yeah, man, that's cool. That's what year was that? That was the early.
That was early,
late 80s. Okay.
Late 80s.
Nice, man.
That was it was called Tier Concepts. There was only one manufacturer. They're out of Arizona. It was an older man and his 2 or 3 sons. You know, the ramp, when the ramp would pull up, it was a cable drive. So there was a spindle at the top of the door, you know, right inside the doorway, the spindle. And that damn thing would get jammed up all the time or break. But it was, you know, just pulled your ramp up in with a spindle drive and, you know, pretty primitive. I mean, they've come a long way. I mean, they weren't even crash tested back in that day. But, you know, now you got VMI, you got Braun, which is a great product. You got a couple different out there. You know, you got the industry running them. You got Sam Schmidt, one of the guys, you know, who's a quad, one of the top guys over there at Braun, along with his race team, you know.
Yeah, and you know, the beautiful thing about new companies and, you know, competition and stuff is it just drives the technology forward. You know, it's people doing, you know, new and different things, you know, trying different things, innovating in different ways. It's really changing the game.
Quadra and Quickie were just coming about back then on a lightweight manual chair. You know, Quadra was right out of here, out of Westlake or Chatsworth, somewhere local, and then you know, Sunrise Medical. Quickie wheelchairs. I forget the lady's name that ran that. Mm-hmm. But you know,
what's your brand now for a wheelchair? What do you like?
I'm in Invacare. I've been in Invacare for years. I was sponsored by Invacare because I really believe in the product, and they got rid of the sponsorships about 10 years ago. Hopefully they'll pick me back up because I need a rear wheel drive chair that does not have trailing wheels behind it. Currently, at the moment, I'm in a heavy chair because my chair is broke down, the one I paint with, and I'm having trouble finding parts for the old one. Because I'm also, I tilt because my blood pressure is all you got. You got low blood pressure. My blood pressure is 70/40 all day long. So in order to compensate for that, I keep my chair tilted, so I keep my knees elevated, and I keep my knees elevated also, so I don't have to have a chest strap. Because for years, I used to customize all my clothes, put holes underneath my armpits, have those sewn in, put a chest strap on so you wouldn't see the clothes or it wouldn't ruin my clothes with the Velcro. So, but once I went to the tilt, and I can drive in the tilted position, my blood pressure stays up because, the least amount of medications you can take, the better off you are. So I don't have to take any medication. And I no longer wear a binder. I did wear a binder for years, and Ted hose, and slowly you could wean away. What happened was, after years of wearing a binder, that thing finally sliced me on the top of my thigh. Really? It's kind of sharp, the edge of that thing. And during the healing process, I realized, hey, I can go without the binder. It was one less thing for my caregiver to put on me.
Yeah.
One less rolling you over in bed, back and forth, trying to get that thing down.
We just our topic last week was autonomic dysreflexia and blood pressure issues. So we talked about it quite a bit. But what we were kind of touched on is some people just struggle more for whatever reason. It's related to their particular spinal cord injury, the unique injury, whatever it is. But yeah, some people really struggle with that low BP. We talked about the tet hose and the binders and all that stuff. But it's nice to hear about your experience with it too. I'm tilted right now, my 30 degree angle, to combat my low blood pressure. We keep watching Sean do the quad.
I was gonna say that's why I keep doing my little lean back. That's my need to pick it up.
Yeah. See, that's what we do. We do the more
forward lean. Moving a little bit on that cushion so you don't get pressures. I mean, I've been blessed. I've never had a pressure before. But the key is, I think, is staying active. I was blessed with some very good jobs, very good paying jobs. Worked hard. Made a very good living, selling the vans, selling the medical supplies. But like I said, when I first got injured, if I went to an Abilities Expo, the only person in a wheelchair that would be involved with the company would be a sponsored Jim Knab. He was a marathon runner, so he did the Boston Marathon. I think it was LA Marathon, but he's in a pushchair, so he did the LA, and he'd be there signing some posters. He was sponsored by Top End or wherever it was, but him and a few other athletes, maybe some tennis players, were the only ones in a booth that represented the company. And then when Bob Yant started a company called Research Medical, which was catheters and urologic and wound care supplies, his deal was he'd been trying to raise money for research for probably 40 years now. And 10% of the pre-tax profits went back into research. And he hired Lee Bangle to be the manager, who was a quadriplegic, who used to work for my father, broke his neck 6 months the day after I did. And then he hired me as an employee, as well as other guys, all in chairs. So that was the first company hiring guys in chairs. And then other companies started seeing suit and say, wait a minute, these guys were getting all the business for one, but everything, everybody wanted to go to research. I mean, for years, 20 years, I was involved with research, American, not as an organization, but I raised over $1 million. My friend Sid, my dad's friend Sid, my dad, we put on a golf tournament every year and raised over $1 million for research, but then, which is great, but they're still telling you today, the cure is 7 years away, but once I got my canine companions, once I got water skiing, once I got doing different things, USARC, we hired USARC to come down and do our first sports game. First, Andy wanted to bring his boat and me bring my boat to the sports camp. And I said, no, I'm not putting my boat in salt water, and I don't want the liability. So let's hire USARC. They already do it, and they do it well. And so then they came down, and that's how the sports camp. Like I said, some of these different things got started, and it's thank God for the different changes, and like you guys see, it's just Now you go to a Disabilities Expo, everybody, any company there has got either representatives or employees that are in wheelchairs.
Yeah, most
working.
do.
I mean,
But I think that's an important reason why those companies are still around, because they are, they have the people who are the representing, working for them, developing the products,
yeah,
whatever it is. I mean, those are the ones that need to do. I mean, I always say, like, the reason I feel like we're in such a tough situation, insurance wise, and like Medicare wise, is because nobody
right.
like developing and designing these systems is disabled. None of them suffer, like the daily struggles of the disabilities. None of them, have familiarity, personal experience with it, and like here they are developing systems to support, like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of, disabled Americans. And, they have zero experience with it themselves. So obviously, they're going to have a harder time. But, it's really amazing, like you said, to see companies like that, change over the years and, bring their people into the workforce, the ones that they actually represent, because it's an important thing. And something that you did say earlier, it's like one of the more important things for maintaining your health and, managing your disability is staying active, whether it's painting, whether it's going for a walk, a couple times a day, getting up in your chair, moving your body around.
One of the big game changers for me was getting my canine companion.
Mm-hmm.
That dog, got the dog 2 years after my accident. That dog was the one that gave me enough confidence to move out of my parents' house, because I knew if I dropped the phone, by this time there was a cordless telephone. If I drop my phone and I'm by myself during the hours I don't have a caregiver, that dog could physically pick up the phone. If I drop my keys getting back into my apartment, the dog could pick up the keys. So, I mean, that dog was just a game changer. So, I mean, when I started seeing things like that and different things, I started pushing more friends and family members to start, when it came time to write their tax deductible checks at the end of the year, going after stuff like that. I mean, I still believe in research, don't get me wrong. But if you can change the quality of life today, that dog changed my life immediately. The day I got that dog, my life was different. I mean, it gave me independence and confidence to go out and develop.
It's kind of like what Andrew Skinner, from Triumph Foundation always says, is like, the cure is like a great thing. And, like pray, hope that it comes about, like we have something that's, meaningful, that can affect our lives in a positive way. But in the meantime, we can't stop living, we gotta keep on trucking until it's here. So, like it's really important to put energy and effort towards developing programs and providing activities for individuals still in the chair, because we're going to be in it for, a minute until something else comes around. And we must support programs that, support that stuff, because, you're right. Raising money for research is one thing, but and it's great, but raising money for adaptive sports programs and, like supporting the community for disabled individuals is, also like arguably even more important,
Oh, yeah.
And also, like, I was going to say, just like you were saying, I was going to say, Tom. Go ahead. Sorry, Tommy. Go ahead, Tommy. Go for it, Tommy. Sorry. No, I was just going to bring up the fact that... Oh, sorry. What you were saying before with like all the other companies and like hiring all the people with disabilities. So that's like a huge benefit all around, because one, it gives people with disabilities jobs, opportunity to make money, puts us back into the working community. And it also helps those companies develop better products, better customer service, and better help for the community. So like that's just another benefit to helping like immediate now, like.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's like nothing worse than like going in and talking to, someone about like disabled products and stuff, but they're like able-bodied and have no idea what they're talking about, like so many times I've gone to like a DME or something, like a wheelchair vendor, and they have like someone paralyzed like working in the office, and they're sitting there talking about your stuff, and their like level of knowledge and experience and just understanding with it all is like remarkable and incredible compared to someone who's like a little bit more detached. So yeah, very cool stuff.
I mean, I got a new wheelchair right before COVID, and I got recommended to this tilt system because I know I tilt. Well, I get home, I get the chair, I finally get the dial in for I have my weld things on to hold my dog's leash, hold different things. I kind of design a lot of different things for the chairs on the side. So I get in the chair the first day, tilt back, and I'm thinking all of a sudden I roll up to my desk and my knees are like 3 3.5 inches taller than they should be, right? Ah, shit, what the hell? I couldn't figure this out. I see him tilt, boom, boom. I finally got out of the chair and I tilted that thing, looking at it. Not only does it tilt, but on the pivoting point, it starts raising up in the back. It goes up about 2.5, 3 inches. So now I get in the van. My visual is now at the very top of the windshield. So right now I'm in the process of getting them to switch that back out. But the guy's out in a wheelchair. He wasn't even aware that product did that. But it's not an elevating seating system.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that. There's no elevating seating system, but it's just part of their thing. It was like, that's just a dumb design.
And it's a small thing, but for someone in our situation, it'd make a world of difference. I was just talking to a friend who got a new chair not too long ago, and they were saying that, like, the transition into it, it doesn't allow for your chair to tilt while it elevates, where the old chair could. So when they elevate to grab something, they're sitting more straight. That way, as a quadriplegic with no abdominal support, like, you're very high risk of falling. So now, like, that's all out the window. Like how they used to grab stuff because of the elevator system, and now it's actually like trying to troubleshoot, figure that out. But it just goes to show, like, another example, like, the importance of having disabled individuals represented in the workforce. Because it makes a world of difference in all of our lives, I think, at the end of the day, because we all end up using the products.
Yep. When they built that, was it the MB that from the ground up, you see a lot of the access services use those vehicles. The Ford built on the Grand Victoria body, but I was one of the guys. There was many other people that were involved. They were answering questions. They're doing a lot on the research and development design on that product to make sure they didn't miss the mark. 1 inch inside of a vehicle, 2 inches is huge. When it comes to, like, the height of your footrest, turning around and hitting the back of the driver's seat or not, when you're trying to get into the passenger area of a minivan. It's just, hopefully they'll start hiring more and more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we are kind of approaching the 4:30 1 hour mark.
I was going to say, we've got a few questions that are coming in.
We got a couple questions.
Yeah. So, whoops, Morgan. Where did you? Sorry. Morgan was asking. She loves photography, and was also asking. She just recently lost hand function, more hand function, and she wants to know if there's any tips. I guess she likes to play the piano, or used to like to play the piano. Or does she know? Do you know any quads that have made adaptive, like, anything towards, like, any sort of musical type of stuff? I think she was asking. And then also, so yeah, I don't know if you have any. I'll look for the other questions too real quick. But I know that was just one on music.
I can kind of touch on the piano one, because that was kind of like always a passion of mine. Now, I was into it as a kid, but it wasn't really able to, like, pick up the piano like I wanted to. But technology here is our friend, right? Keyboards, even things like piano applications where you could, like, play it on a tablet, where you could, like, just touch the keys rather than, like, be on a piano physically having to press the keys. It's still, you're kind of working at an uphill battle, if you don't have fine motor control at all, 10 digits. But you'd be surprised how manipulative and, how creative you could get on, like, a keyboard application, on a tablet or something. And, then they have a lot of tools and stuff to allow you to, possibly overcome some of the issues with, being able to, like, have 10 fingers on each, individual key and things like that. There's lots and lots of creative tools they have in the different applications. So if it's still a passion for you, look into the keyboard stuff. Hopping onto a big grand piano may not be the easiest thing, but there's definitely a lot of cool technology out there that may be able to bridge that gap for you.
The other thing I would mention as well, there's a catalog called Access to Recreation.
Access to Recreation?
That's owned by a quadriplegic guy out in Westlake. That catalog has so many different gadgets that help you get back into playing pool, casting a fishing rod, helping with what do you call it, shooting, everything. I mean, I used to get all kinds of, gadgets on there for working out, different cups, different splints. That's the one to go to.
Awesome. I'll have to mention to check that out, or so I could throw it in the description too after we're done here, so people can get to the link.
And
Also,
another
one
thing,
thing,
go ahead.
I just want to make sure that Sean, like, we're gonna hype Tommy's website and his stuff a little bit,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
make
no,
sure
I
we put all
definitely.
that information.
I have his
Because
Instagram
everyone
and
should go
everything
check
already
out
in
his
there.
website and everything. There's merch available. You guys want to get some cool T-shirts? Sean's rocking one right now.
Yeah, I got
Uh,
one of the Tommy
you
Art
know,
shirts on.
and if you're local to the SoCal area, I'm assuming when these art galleries start to open back up for like public use, Tommy's gonna be holding some shows.
Yeah,
So do keep that in mind if you're local
yeah,
to the
definitely
SoCal
follow him,
area.
social media, check him out, website and everything. Um, and then Tommy, so I have another
Yeah,
question for you. Tommy, do you try to make figurative paintings? I think that's what he. I don't know what that exactly means. I think Tommy's more of an abstract artist, but right? Or go. You
yeah. I
can
mean, most,
explain your style
when
if
it
you.
does come to realism, I mean, I've done some waves. My favorite paintings hanging above my bed called Ride. That's on my website. There's skateboard decks with the ride on it. Every year for the sports camp, I would do, a land meets sea theme with palm trees, sunset, waves, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, but as far as figures and people, not really.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I knew you were pretty much more like abstract art, and I didn't even know you did the
Yeah.
waves and stuff. So that's cool.
Also, Morgan asked if we talked about manual chairs and tilting and things like that. She asked if
Yeah,
tilt manual chairs were available.
I
I'm
think they
not
do have
sure.
some, but I'm not actually 100% sure. Tommy, do you know if they make tilted or manual chairs that you can tilt like you for like blood pressure reason? If you,
There
I know
I
they
don't
are
know
have
if they.
hospital style chairs that are like larger and have the
Oh,
tilt
that's true.
function, but those are
kids that have a tilt. There's a lot of wheelchairs for kids that have tilt. I mean,
Okay.
my
okay.
suggestion is go to an expo. That's where you can see everything. Online expos coming up. There's quite a
Yeah, they're
few of
gonna do
those.
another virtual abilities expo. I think in a couple months. I think
Right.
from what Julianne was saying, a couple months
Yeah.
from now. I'm gonna
Anybody
just.
interested in a good park, go to shanesinspiration.org. They have parks all over the world, but especially all over Southern California and all over the country that are so accessible. You know, years ago I dated a girl that had a little daughter. We would go to the park together. It wasn't just a ramp and a handicap bathroom. Everything. I mean, there's all kinds of things I get on. A spinning Ferris wheel type thing I could get on with it. A rowboat, a rocking boat. I mean, it's all ramped out. There's sensory stuff. I mean, they got water features at some of the park. It's crazy.
That's cool.
That's
What was the
cool.
website again? Say it one more time. Just
Shane's Inspiration.
okay.
SHANES Inspiration.
Shane's Inspiration. Okay, Shane's Inspiration. I'll put that in the description as well after once we're
Yeah,
done
it's
here.
under Inclusion Matters by Shane's Inspiration.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Definitely good to know. And then while we're talking right now, I'm just gonna
Everybody find it.
play Tommy's video, some of his art, real quick again while we're just talking here. Which we can still talk while it's running. Whoops, I don't know why it's not running though. This is some of Tommy's art. I don't know why it muted for a second. And Tommy from galleries and stuff. This is just him painting. Which you guys, we can still talk. They can still hear us and everything, guys. I just
Oh,
was
cool.
playing the, yeah. I was just playing the little slideshow just so people can see it as we're talking. So these are some from Tommy's studio, and all this stuff is on his Instagram and stuff. You guys check it out, and onto the website. You can get different stuff. He has. I actually have a picture of one of your skateboards on here too. So he does like cool skateboard designs as well as his shirts and a bunch of cool merchandise actually. So.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and anybody wants to reach out to me through Instagram, that's fine. I have no problem.
Yeah,
Yep.
Tommy is one of the coolest, kindest, most awesome like people, quads, artists around. So Yeah, if you guys definitely go check out his website. If you have any personal questions for him or whatever, he's a wealth of knowledge in regards to, living life as a quad
Everything.
and, just resources for us in regards to any topic concerning disability.
Yeah, I mean,
Tommy's really the
our
man.
Tommy
So,
developed the water ski stuff. I mean, service animal stuff he's been doing for, like, I mean, he just, all the different quad adaptive, everything, driving, anything. I mean, Tommy's done it all. There's one of his skateboards, so he actually has skateboards too. And then here's a couple of the water skiing pics of Tom, and that's his own board, and you can see the handles there that he got his hooks his hand in. And then that's Tommy with the awesome mullet. I had to show it, Tommy. I'm sorry.
Water ski, the other big difference, it's not just the ski cage is different, but it's actually on a surfboard blank.
Yeah, so you use a surfboard. I really want to try that too. I still haven't even tried that. I just tried the regular.
Yeah, I'm still hoping that things, people get smart, wear their masks for the next couple of weeks. In September, we might be able to pull off a little ski day at a private lake out in Oregon, and get a group of us to go out and get a couple runs in, because I can't imagine skipping a whole year without skiing at least once. So
okay.
hopefully we can pull it off. You guys, everybody, stay home, wear your mask, just stay safe, and this thing will be over. We won't keep getting shut down.
That's it.
Let's hope
Name
so,
of the
man.
game.
I would love to get out and do some water skiing and do some more outdoor activities this summer.
Yeah.
Tommy, do you know if your website, somebody mentioned, just typed that they couldn't get to it, they're in Holland. So they said it wouldn't open for them in Holland. I don't know if do you know if there's any type of, would there
It's
be?
mostly the local ISP that's blocking it. They can either change their DNS, which just Google change your domain name service, and that may allow you to access like the websites from outside the country, or also use a VPN. A VPN will allow you to access the websites, but it's most likely restricted by our internet service provider, because otherwise it should work. And we do also have a request. I'm not sure if you've ever done this, but Morgan asked if Tommy could do a Canadian flag.
Up for a second.
Oh,
can you hear?
You got us back, Tommy, or not?
You guys froze up for a second. What's the request?
Okay. She's like, can Tommy do a Canadian flag in your art style?
Seeing your American flag here.
You know what? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I can do a Canadian flag.
So if you want that custom commission, slide into his Instagram and work out some terms.
Yeah. If I could make his LA logo like the the Dodger logo.
Yeah, that's the other shirt I have. I got that shirt too. Is the LA one. I like that one.
I love Canada, Vancouver, Victoria. One of my friends swam for Canada in the '88 Olympics. She was an occupational therapist at Northridge Hospital, and she swam there. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
That's super cool.
Are there any more questions, or?
I guess Morgan's having trouble seeing the website in Canada too, so we'll have to.
Weird. Maybe the hosting service is restricted.
But yeah, if you do want to contact Tommy, definitely his Instagram is in the it's on the screen right now, but it's also in the description, just at Tommy Hollenstein, and his website I will add to the description as soon as we get off of here. So if you didn't already search it and find it.
Tommy, you're the man. Thank you so much for joining us today, dude.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, sharing all your knowledge.
I appreciate it. Sure,
and thank you, viewers out there watching too. If you guys haven't already, show Sean and Live to Roll channel some love. Make sure to like and subscribe, and share the videos around if you enjoy them and you think there might be other people out there that find them useful. So thank you everybody for joining. Y'all are awesome.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for watching, and catch us again next week, Tuesday, 3:30. Live to roll, awesome. Everybody.
Peace and love.